We have some breaking news from the music world. Canada has lost one of its greatest rock icons. We have just learned that Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush, has died. A publicist for Peart says he passed away earlier this week in January on the 7th in California. The statement says he had been suffering from brain cancer for the last 3.5 years. Peart is considered one of rock's greatest drummers. He also wrote many of Rush's lyrics. He was 67 years old. And for more on this, I want to bring in Alan Cross, who is a music writer and radio broadcaster. He joins us now from Oakville. Alan, sorry to be talking to you under such sad circumstances. A lot of people expressing shock already online. He really was a giant in the world of music, and particularly in Canadian music. How are you reacting to the news?
Well, he was my drumming hero. I got into playing drums because of Neil Peart. Over here in my office, I have a replica of the kind of kit that he played in 1983. That's how big a fan I was. I followed Rush from 1975 forward, and it was because of him that I decided to play drums like millions of other people around the world. And, you know, there was something about, you know, he was a talented, and plus he was very erudite with lyrics. I learned so much about literature and science and fantasy from Rush and Neil Peart's lyrics. This is a tough one.
Can you give me an example? Not to put you on the spot, Alan, but when you talk about that quality of the lyricism, is there any particular one that comes to mind?
I will always go back to the 2112 album in 1976, which is the record that really put them on the map. I mean, if you listen to that 2112 overture on side one of the vinyl, you were getting a real, education in everything from science fiction to Ayn Rand. That's in one go, and it was all Neil.
Okay, let's talk about the band as a whole and the influence they had on rock music.
It was staggering. Three guys who made an awful lot of noise, who were all virtuosos at their instruments, and they were one of those bands that you either got or you didn't. But if you did get them, you became a fan for life. I followed them, like I said, for years. I was fortunate enough to see them in Las Vegas on their last tour, the R40 tour, and we were told that at that time Neil was going to quit. He was suffering from a lot of arthritis, and that's not uncommon with a hard-hitting drummer.
But he wasn't with the band right from the beginning, right, Alan? So what did he bring that changed the direction of the band?
He had a style that was just so incredibly unique. He was a fan of everybody from big band drummers of Gene Krupa to people like Ginger Baker, who was a great rock drummer for Cream and also a great jazz drummer, and then John Bonham, who was a hard-hitting drummer for Led Zeppelin. He did things. When you first heard Neil Peart play, no one else played like him. He had a style all of his own, and he wasn't just keeping time. He was adding so much more to everything that Rush did.
So what are the highlights that you would demonstrate for someone who wouldn't be familiar with Rush's music, with Peart's contribution to it? What are the big things that stand out for you?
We don't have enough time. They were one of Canada's greatest musical exports. They were one of the most influential rock bands on a bunch of different levels, from math rock to prog rock to sci-fi rock to virtuoso rock. They were just giants, and they came back to Toronto, and we embraced them every single time that they played here. They brought along bands like Max Webster to try and break them worldwide. Everybody wanted to play like Neil. Everybody wanted to play like Geddy. Everybody studied how Alex played the guitar. How did three guys make that much noise on stage by themselves in the era before backing tapes? I mean, it was, we could go on and on and on. But they were certainly, when they announced that they were retiring, or Neil was retiring, not just from Rush, but from drumming about a couple of years ago, we were all really devastated, because a lot of us can't remember what it was like before Rush was around.
As we've been talking, Alan, one of my colleagues who's a huge music fan, huge Rush fan, he's telling me, talk about his personal life, because Evidently, it
Oh,
wasn't the easiest life, not to mention his own battle with cancer, but he lost loved ones to cancer and his own family had to deal with so much. Talk to us about that.
yeah, he lost a daughter. He lost a wife. He ended up going on the road on a motorcycle, traveling across North America, trying to find himself and figure out exactly where he sat in the universe after those two tragic losses. That resulted in a number of books and a number of side projects outside of Rush. And Neil was always the one who almost never engaged in any kind of interviews. He was the most private person. And, you know, if there was any press that had to be done, it would be Getty and Alex. If there was a meet and greet backstage at a show, it would be Getty and Alex. It was understood that Neil was the quiet, introverted one that never, ever really did any kind of press. He moved away to Santa Monica, which was a way of getting away from it all. And haven't heard too much about him since that last Rush show in August of 2015. There were some rumors about him being unwell, but we kind of just chalk that up to the arthritis that he apparently was suffering from, which is not an unusual thing for hard-hitting drummers. I mean, Phil Collins is suffering from the same sort of thing. So, okay, arthritis, you can't play anymore, we understand. But the brain cancer thing, I heard a rumor late last year that he had been suffering from something similar to what Gord Downey died from, but there were no confirmations. They kept it very quiet. People walked down around him, and it wasn't until, I mean, he died 3 days ago, and it's only now that we're finding out.
Okay, very quickly, because we're running out of time, but if someone is just getting introduced to the idea of Neil Peart and his music and Rush, what do you recommend? What should we be listening for? What album should we pick up?
I'm going to tell you to go to the 2112 album, side one. That overture, still one of the greatest things that you'll ever hear in rock music. Anything from Permanent Waves, anything from Moving Pictures, those three albums. I work at a radio station, 102.1 The Edge, which is CFNY, which used to have the slogan, "The Spirit of Radio," back in the day. And that's what Rush wrote about when they wrote the song Spirit of Radio. And I remember going home from lunch and opening up that record thinking maybe one day I'll work at that radio station. And I ended up doing that. And now, you know, this is that's another personal blow to me. The guy who wrote the lyrics to the song at the radio station that I've been at for 30 some years is now gone.
Okay, Alan, we'll leave it there, but thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Alan Cross is a music writer and radio broadcaster who joined us from Oakville, Ontario.